Hello and welcome. Another Coach's Corner. And today we are going to take a much deeper dive into the NCAA Division II landscape. We're going to talk East Stroudsburg Warrior Baseball, located in Pennsylvania, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Today, we're going to be talking to head coach, 19-year head coach, John Kochmansky. And John, I want to say first and foremost, I know we're in the middle of the regional preparation, so I appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Sure, appreciate. Thanks for having us and having me and having an opportunity to talk baseball and talk about our program.
Well, one of the things that sticks out right away, and both of us have a rapport relationship with Greg Mamula over at Delaware, and he was just telling me that it would be hard to find a more consistent college baseball program, over the last 5 years than East Stroudsburg. I mean, you've been to the regionals now. I believe this is your fourth or fifth year in a row. So I'd like to start there. What makes East Stroudsburg such a strong baseball program, and what is the kind of the lay of the land as far as the campus and the draw for the student athletes?
Right. Well, first off, that's Coach Mams making that statement. That's that says a lot, and I appreciate the kind words from him. But we our location is we're in the northeast part of PA, and we're about 2 miles from the Jersey border, and 80 miles from New York City. We're about 100 miles from Philly. So, we have a, pretty strong recruiting base and a really strong baseball area. But, from the baseball side of things, we have been fortunate enough to have an administration that has supported us and financially. And, in 2018, we got a full turf complex. And that has certainly helped, and especially getting all your games in. But yeah, we have been consistent. We built this thing on pitching and defense, but our offense has been very dynamic. And people that don't follow us close, we get a lot of praise for our offense, and we're very diverse in how we do this thing. We certainly swing the bats. We steal a lot of bases. We're not a big sacrifice bunt program. But so guys like to come here and play offense. But if you look at our pitching numbers over the last 5 years, we've been nationally ranked in ERA and strikeouts per 9, and that's pretty much been the mainstay. And then the thing that people really forget is and don't notice is how well we play defense. I mean, we're fielding it at 980 right now. We were as high as 983, leading the country. And in college baseball, those numbers, you don't see those numbers. And but over the last 5 years, that's what we've really done. We, teams that score against us, they have to earn it. And we really play great defense.
So I kind of want to piggyback here now, because you led me down a path that I was kind of hoping you might. We get so caught up in analytics, fastball velocity, spin rates, et cetera, and then we start talking exit velocities and how far did the ball go. But at the end of the day, and I would really love for you to be really speaking to the student athletes that watch this episode, and that is the ability to play catch, be able to catch and throw. It's a big part of college, and once you get to college baseball, those that can make the routine play consistently definitely get between the lines. So talk about how you coach or recruit athletes with regard to defense.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, because when I do speak at clinics and we run our team camps here in the summertime, the first thing that I emphasize to everyone and all the high school players is everyone has their own hitting coach, and they're going here and they're spending a lot of time swinging the bats. But the first thing I do when and our staff does when we're out recruiting is, we analyze the defense first. And, we don't recruit DHs. People certainly play DH, but, we don't recruit DHs in our program. And so we are checking guys off based on their defense before they even swing a bat. And I emphasize to them, hey, don't forget to, take care of the arm and develop the arm strength. And then, every time, with all your players, is that guys can play, based on the philosophy of programs.
One of the other dynamics, and we don't hear this enough, we don't hear coaches, in my world talk enough about the catch play capability, how to center the ball to your body, things like that. When you're conducting your camps and you're working with athletes, do you stress the importance of self repetition, meaning don't be reliant on your instructors or your coaches or your travel team or your high school team for your reps? Make sure you're getting your individual reps, whether it's wall ball or playing catch with your, one of your buddies, just things that can help develop skill on your own personal development. Do you stress that to your incoming athletes or your current student athletes?
Or even, from the current end, when speaking with it, the art of throwing and developing the arm strength, and isn't as prevalent as it was before. And so, yeah, we do have to take more time, even as simple as, when we work on our pitchers throwing picks, it's about their feet and getting that front shoulder pointed to their target, whether they're, going to first base or second base, because the throws that are erratic, it leads, you can just take their front shoulder and it'll show you where the ball went. And if they don't get their feet turned, then that throw is going to be wild. So, it does come down to, the basics of throwing and going right back to pointing that front shoulder and getting the ball to where the target is.
One of the things I want to talk about, you alluded to, the baseball hotbed area, and we're both in the Northeast corridor, and we do have access to D1, and there's a multitude of Division III high-level programs from the Ohio Valley area all the way up and through New England. And so, can you talk a little bit about when you're out recruiting, what are some of the separating factors that you're looking at with regard to a potential fit for your program, whether it be pitching or hitting, that you might be able to say, okay, we're going to be able to get in on this guy, or this guy's a little bit, how do you go about your recruiting in such a fertile high school, area, geographical area, with regard to the amount of schools that are in your backyard?
Right. Well, we do have a very strong high school programs in this area. So there's quite a few players, and we target guys based on the way we play the game and what our, based on our pitching philosophy. And, if we've got guys, it's changing a little bit because of the portal. Division I's are as readily getting on guys because of the portal. So, we have parameters that we look for arms, and we're looking for guys that the first thing is throwing strikes. And everyone thinks you got to look at the gun. The first thing we're evaluating is strike throwers. Then velocity certainly plays a part. But overall, it's targeting guys that, if someone's throwing 90 to 92, that's a guy we're probably not going to get. All right. So he's going to be above us. So we're targeting that guy that's in that when they're in their junior year. One, they project, and two, they're, if we're looking at velocity just as one category, we're looking for a guy that's in that 84 to 86, 87, but he projects. So by the time he's just that high school senior, then just by development and strength, he's going to be 87, 88, maybe bumping 90. And those are the guys that we've had a lot of success with. And the other is the guy that's already what we've been able to do, in the last 3 or 4 years, is find guys that have developed that secondary pitch, the changeup and the breaking pitch, and guys that didn't throw as hard when they were younger. They have to learn how to get outs. So they've developed the changeup. And then, they may not be throwing as hard in their junior year of high school, but they have that secondary pitch. But when you look at them and, from a projection standpoint, eventually they are going to be that 88 to 90 to 91 guy. And that's where we've been very, very successful in targeting that guy, from the max.
You mentioned the portal, and I would like to be able to have families gain an understanding. It's very common in today's world for the fallback from the Division I. They get into the portal and they start to look at stronger programs throughout the country. And obviously, East Stroudsburg is going to fit that caliber of university. Do you find that more athletes that come in to Division II are staying and playing in those full 4, or in some cases 5 years, as opposed to trying to look to bounce up or spring up within the portal?
I think it depends on the program. We've been fortunate that our better players, and we've certainly had players that can play Division I, and we that's the talent of player that we have here. But with the experience that we're providing, we're doing, in the scope of Division II, we're providing an experience that, is pretty high level. So, but, the portal's a tricky thing. You can sit back and wait for your portal guys, and then you end up with, like I describe it in here, as a summer college team, when they go away and then all these players come together and they don't really know each other. And we certainly use the portal to fill in holes, but we're building this program with high school seniors. And that's the way it'll stay as long as I'm the head coach. But we do use the portal from the standpoint of filling maybe some gaps. College baseball is very physical, and it's really hard to win at a high level with a lot of young players. And so that's where we use the portal.
Well, I would love for you to expand on that point, and I try to stress this as often as I can. It's been this way for decades, but even more so in today's world because of the access to the nutrition and strength and trainers throughout the country. Talk about, from a high school athlete's perspective, one of the most basic foundational pieces they're going to need as a college athlete is physical and mental strength. Can you talk a little bit about that transition from high school into college, and why it's really important to get into that routine strength and mental training wise before they enter college?
Right. Well, when I have a potential student athlete sitting in front of me with their parents, and we talk about that part of it, the one of the biggest thing from the physical standpoint, even our smaller guy, I'm not talking about 6'3", 225 when I say physical. We've got 5'10" guys, and we've got 5'7" guys, and 5'8" guys that are physical. They're strong, and they didn't come in here that way. And I have to give a lot of credit to our strength and conditioning program. We've been pretty innovative on as a university on how we do things, and it's we have strength trainers and that are coming from our exercise science department that are studying to be strength trainers at the master's level. And we've got a head strength guy that's highly involved in developing us. And our guys don't come in looking the way they do. So we do spend a lot of time with that. And then from the mental side of things, I'm glad you brought that up, is, it's the speed of the game. Guys, young players will get on the field sooner when they get used to the speed of the game. And I'm not talking about the 90 miles an hour, the 92 that you're going to see every weekend here in our conference. It's the speed of the game in their head. Is everything slowing down for them? Can you, as a pitcher, can you handle the bunt defenses? Can you handle the first and third? Can you handle the adversity? And then from an offensive player, your first couple of bats, if you strike out, okay, that, or you maybe have a negative, appearance at the plate. can you process that and move forward and go play defense? And, that doesn't always happen. And that's one of the unknowns in the recruiting process, which is just a snapshot of how well someone's going to handle, the speed of the game and all the things that go in it. And I describe moving from high school baseball to college baseball like in Little League when you left the small field and you go to the big field. That's the drastic change that's occurring. Obviously a little bit more at Division I, but at the high level Division IIs, there's not a lot of separation sometimes, and especially in that area that we just discussed from a physicality standpoint, and then from that getting used to the speed of the game in your head, and everything slows down for them.
I would love for you to just talk a little bit about specifically your conference, because up here we have the Northeast 10, which is Franklin Pierce, Southern New Hampshire, St. Anselm's. Down south we have UT, and we have Florida Southern, Barry, et cetera. But when you start looking throughout Pennsylvania and even through Ohio and into the New Jersey area, you have a lot of really elite Division II programs, not only within your conference but within your region. So talk a little bit about the strength of those programs and why it matters week after week that you're prepared as a student athlete. There are no layups at the NCAA Division II level.
Sure. Yeah. And our conferences, it's been known, going back over the years as a high level, high quality baseball, and especially on the mound. We're not seeing, one or two 90-mile-an-hour guys, and then there's a drop off from the bullpen. And then when you get to the number 4, that's still high velocity and secondary stuff for the most part. So I describe our conference. We play 4 games, the 2 on Friday we do home and home. So 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and it is a grind. And you can play well on a weekend and you can lose 3 out of 4 and come back and go, what just happened? From the PSAC East, you've got Westchester, you got Millersville, Shippensburg, and then you get to even with Mansfield and Kutztown, they have arms, so it's just a matter of time before they get the right group where they're battling at the top, like the way it's been for the last couple of years. But at one point during the season, you had us, Westchester, and Millersville, and we're all sitting together at 10, 11, and 12, or 9, 10, and 11 in the country.
Right.
So welcome to the PSAC East, and and you have when you look at the region, you all of a sudden you get Seton Hill in the West is exceptional. Cal is so physical in what they do, and Coach Conti does such a good job out there, so it's a tough way to go, and to go into a PSAC East or a PSAC East weekend, or just a PSAC tournament when you're taking the 4 top from the East and the 4 top from the West. It's really tough.
Well, I would love for you to kind of share a little bit about what makes the campus special. You alluded to the exercise science major that is a big part of East Stroudsburg University. Just talk a little bit about what makes the campus so attractive for a potential student, as well as some of the majors that are attractive when you're starting to talk about degrees.
Sure. We, being a state school, we have, 60 plus majors here. All right. So, certainly some are they have a better reputation than others from a major standpoint, but we are known for quite a few things. But our campus, we're a nice medium-sized school. We're in that pretty much done with all the post-COVID stuff and everything. We're fully up and running, and we sit in that 6,000 to 8,000, and I think we can hold as many as 10. But we're not that 40 to 60,000 size school. class sizes are relatively small here, and especially inside the major. They're going to get the attention that they need from professors, and it's a school that, from a academic and athletic, people understand that, student athletes are here, and it's the true student athlete. And we've got a lot of, obviously great athletes here in all of our sports here at East Stroudsburg. But it's the academic piece that is certainly as important. And we have professors here on campus that understand that if, as a baseball player, if you're we play on conference on Fridays, if you're going to miss class on Friday, they're willing to work with our student athletes. And if they have to take an exam early or a little bit late, as long as our guys are responsible, that always happens. So we, in all of our sports here, from an academic standpoint, are doing a really good job. We have a lot of teams winning. That's a tribute, starting with our president right on down to our athletic administration, and our faculty and staff.
Now, I just want to kind of end on the affordability. A lot of parents are getting so caught up in the whole Division I settlement, but really Division II, it shouldn't be seeing any drastic changes. Is it still a 36-man roster, 9 scholarships? Can you talk a little bit about, from an affordability perspective, and if or how many scholarships you offer?
Yeah, sure. The maximum is 9. A lot of Division IIs don't have 9 full scholarships, so that depends on the university. We're fortunate we don't have 9, but we have an amount that we're able to certainly to help out our student athletes and create an incentive for them to to come here. When you look at the whole thing with our facilities and our and our campus, so from that perspective, we're very competitive. From a cost perspective, being a state school, we offer some incentives from the academic side, along with from our admissions department, along with the scholarship. But from a roster size, that depends on the school. We're not, Division I has a limit. Division II does not. So, some Division IIs are running JV programs. That's not something that we do here. But we roster, 38 guys here at East Stroudsburg, and depending on the institution, that's a question that certainly to ask, for a potential student athlete, what is a roster size, and are teams running a JV program, and where they might fit in, because teams are running a JV program, you're talking about 70 to 80 guys in a baseball program. So, so that's something that, that is a legitimate question to ask in going through the recruiting process.
Do you have a recruiting calendar that you, with regard to Division II, we keep hearing about August 1st, and do you have a recruiting calendar as far as key dates for you or your staff when you are recruiting the high school athlete particularly?
Right. The Division II, there's only 2 days out of the year that we're not permitted to leave campus or to recruit, and those are the 2 days just before of that November signing date. So, there's times when I wish we did have the recruiting calendar that the Division I does, but we do not. So it's year round, and recruiting has certainly come full circle, and it's certainly changed, and the dynamics of it has, and it's not just the portal, but what the portal has done also is I think it's delayed some of the other than the really elite guys from the Division I, it's delayed some of the recruiting process for the high school student. And I often talk about that, and I feel bad for the high school student in a way. They're not as readily recruited as in years past, but like usual, the junior year, that you get exposed as a sophomore, and we put together our watch list of rising juniors and sophomores, and then we follow them. And the junior year is the real important year for the high school player. But now again, because of the portal and things have been delayed, I think there's more high school seniors available. And I go back a year and I could rattle off 10 names of guys that didn't have offers that I think years ago pre-portal would have been locked up. And and we all have we can only recruit so many guys. And so in a way, one of the things that has been forgotten about, and I think, and this is just my opinion here, that the high school senior, that high school player has been forgotten about in a lot of this process and getting into college athletics.
I agree 1,000%. I couldn't agree more on that last. Final question, college camps, particularly East Stroudsburg University's camps.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about, student athletes that may not be from your geographical area? Is that going to be an identification camp as well as, an instruction-based camp? Is this something that you would suggest for student athletes that may have an interest in your program to look up and find those camps, whether it be through your website, baseball website, or camp website, or as well as outside, camp directories?
Yeah, we have camps going most of the summer, and we do a lot of team camps for the travel. That way we get to see the skill, and then we also get to see them play in games. But as far as when we just run our regular camp showcase type events, we want guys coming from all different areas. We love watershed guys, and first time guys from this area, first time guys from that. We're looking for a player that fits what we do, and our offensive philosophy and defense, and then from a pitching philosophy. And if guys are willing to go further away from home, we're certainly all for that. Again, we have, from an admission standpoint, we have pretty good incentives for out-of-state students, and we are very affordable from the standpoint of comparing in-state to what our out-of-state student athletes are paying. So we can be competitive financially there too.
Well, I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time during this busy time of year. Best of luck in the regionals. I want to let parents know, going to have Coach Kochmansky's all the information on East Stroudsburg in the description, both in the podcast as well as in the video. Make sure that if you are interested in a camp, you can go to the Baseball Blue Book directory. They'll be able to list the times and dates for those camps, and definitely reach out and send an email to a member of the East Stroudsburg staff if you're interested in a camp. Coach, best of luck in the regionals.
Thank you, and thanks for having us and the work that you do with the Blue Book. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.